What's up, what's up, what's up? Just the Jip in the house. Last night I went to meet one of my mother's friends' son, and he's 14 from Detroit. Him and some other friends came, or school children, they all came to Japan and did a tour, and I went to meet them, and it was real cool, to see a bunch of young black children just, they're all 14, just, talking and having fun and being excited and talking about how peaceful it was here. And it was really interesting. It's like how they stopped, take pictures with people, and everyone's taking pictures with them, and the kindness and things that they experienced. And it was really cool. And there were some other teachers there, 2 black teachers and some other thing, I don't know, maybe she looked Latino, thing, but it was real cool to talk to him. I mean, her talk, and she was real cool, Latino-looking lady. And one of the other days, she looked real tired, sister and stuff. And she was probably my age or something like that. She was cute, but me and her was talking a little bit, and then it was a guy there. He's older than me, I'm sure, and he was me and her was talking and stuff. He was tall too, and we were it was just a good time. And basically, I had met them. By the time I got to Osaka, they were already on their way to back to their hotel. So when they got there, I asked the lady today, I'll have to go back inside. And she said, well, if I wanted to hang out with the one guy I came to visit, it was okay, but he had to be back in an hour. So him and another friend came. We walked up and from Nagahori to Homachi, to where Starbucks was. And I was showing them all the brand name shops and telling the difference between Cartier and Louis Vuitton and Gucci, and they were taking pictures of the Ferrari and Bentley and Lamborghini shops and different car shops that were on Midasuji Doherty. And then we walked over to Starbucks and walked inside, and I know some of the staff, so I introduced them to one of the staff, and they were they were talking in English, and the one girl, her English is kind of, I won't say it's bad, but she's kind of shy to speaking and stuff, and she was cute. And then we all walked back, but we had walked across the street to the St. Regis, and that's a really nice 5-star hotel, and I told them to make sure they get a picture, under the sign where it says St. Regis and stuff for us, and we were talking, it was real good. And then I was, he was, the one guy I went to visit, he was like, saying, hey, his name is Courtney. He said, I wonder what the video games are going to look like. And he was like, when I was young, we had the Atari, and now they got, Nintendos and stuff, and what's going to be next. And I said, well, you're still young. The next model is in your head. He's like, what do you mean? I said, well, if you study, you'll figure stuff out, And then he was like, oh, and then we were talking about some other stuff. He's like, well, I don't know about this. I'm like, well, you got to study. And kept studying. And he said, well, how do I figure about that? And I said, well, what do you think? And then his friend said, study. And I said, yep, that's what you got to do. And they're all laughing and stuff. And I asked him about their grades. Courtney was doing okay, fair. His friend was doing much better. And I told him, I said, you guys playing all these games, but you have to understand math and studying is the game too. And they're like, no, it's not. No, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm like, when you play a game, what are you doing? All you're doing is study. You're studying the moves. You're studying. You're doing everything. The time. The pressure that you have to press a button. How many times you got to press the button, and you got to go back and forth. And if you make a mistake, you got to start over. You keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until you get it perfect. And I said, that's the same thing with studying. There's no difference. I said, the only thing is, you just got, you got these tricks, because we were talking about tricks. I was telling about the trick words and stuff. You got these things in your head where you'll think studying in school, and it automatically shut off because that's the way you've been programmed. But if you're talking about playing games, which really all you're doing is studying a program, so you can achieve some goal, then, you're not programmed to shut off and stuff. And it was just funny. We were talking about a whole bunch of things. Like, we were talking about math, and I was telling him how, because Courtney said he wasn't doing so well in math. I'm like, well, why aren't you doing well in math? And he said, well, because, gave us reasons and stuff. And I was like, well, math is is real simple and stuff, and it's real simple. So you really got to try it. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, okay. Like, math is like this. Everything that you see, you should be able to mathematically describe it. He was like, what do you mean mathematically describe it, you know? And I said, did you, like in Avengers, when Stark and this girl was up there and they were talking, you know, and they were talking about stocks, the percentage of my baby and this and that and that and that. And I said, I asked him, did he understand what they were talking about? And he was like, no. And I said, basically, they were just talking about how they rich and balling, you know? And that's it, you know. And I said, but if you don't understand the language, then you're not going to, I mean, if you don't understand the vocabulary, then you're not going to understand what they're saying. And I was like math. Like, so we saw this rectangular poster, and I said, let's say this poster is 3 inches by 4 inches. What's the area? So the other guy was like 12 inches square. And I said, well, why is it 12 inches square? He said, because it's 3 times 4. And I said, no, that's not it. He said, why not? And I said, well, he said, why not? What is it? So I said, well, if the rectangle, the vertical is 3 inches and the horizontal is 4 inches, then what it is the horizontally you got 4 columns, and vertically you have 3 rows, and each of those squares have sides of 1. Each side is 1. So, and then if you count them all, you're gonna have 12 squares, you know. And I said, what about the inch square? What does that mean? And he was like, they were like, I don't know. What is this supposed to mean? You know, because evidently, you know, no one really broke it down and told him. And I said, well, it just means inch times inch. And they were like, huh? And I said, yeah. I said 3 inches multiplied by 4 inches is 3 times 4 times an inch times an inch. And those inches are just units, but you still got to multiply them together. And I said the 3 and the 4 can be multiplied, and it comes out to 12. But the inches, you can't multiply those together. So they made it into a square sign, and the square just means you just multiply 2 inches, 2 inch units and stuff. And they're like, huh, what do you mean? I said, watch. When you 3 by 4, if you draw the lines, you count it, all you're going to do is just have a square, 12 squares with each side of 1 inch, and that's it. I said, in reality, the inch square really, you can use it or you don't have to use it. I said, because it'll be just 12 times inch times an inch, because that's what it really is. But to say space, you know, they figure it out another way and use, you know, square, and it means to multiply, you know, the same number, one number that many times. And they're like, oh, okay, now I see. And I said, they don't teach kids like that, you know, in school. If they teach it and break it down to you, then you'll be able to understand what that stuff is, you know. And they said, yeah, that's right. And I said, but then again, you know, I feel sorry for the teachers, and the kids are like, what? And I said, and then I asked them, and they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what's the purpose of studying? And they were like, to get a job and da-da-da. And I'm like, no, that's not what it is. The purpose of studying is to understand who you are. And that's it. And they're like, well, what do you mean understand who you are? And, you know, I guess somehow I think one of them said something about, you know, finding one subject that you like. And I said, well, there's no such thing as one subject that you like. All the subjects, you should love them, and you should be intensely studying them, because they're only thing they're doing is just helping you understand who you are. And they're like, well, how do you mean? And I said, well, if you're good at science and math and biology and finances and building things and stuff, then you're going to be very, very busy. You're going to love those things. That's where you're going to start to create things. And Courtney, he was like, yeah, I always wonder how they make these you know, electronic components and what they're made of and stuff. And I said, you know, they're just made of gold, silver, and copper, and, you know, the same stuff that we eat, you know, in our foods. And they're like, huh? I said, well, what do you think we are? I said, you can eat gold and silver, and you got all those minerals and metals and stuff in you, because they grow in the plants and stuff, you know. And they were like, really? I said, yeah. I'm like, well, you got, you know, iron, and, you know, you got the minerals and vitamins and things, you know, the pills and stuff. You know, I was thinking that, you know, I didn't say it though. And they're like, wow, you know. I said, yeah, if you study. I said, the only thing that's really difficult is just the fact that you just don't know the vocabulary. And I said, if you went to a restaurant and 2 white guys in business suits were talking, and and they were using a jargon, you know, and they were saying, well, you know, hey, I got $10,000, and it's almost an 80% guarantee that next year with this 10,000 you can make 100,000 because they're investing in, you know, Africa or wherever in some developing country. And you definitely, those who know about this are definitely going to get this money. It's an 80% chance, you know, so I'm going to do it. But I said, if they're sitting next to you and they're telling you that, and they're not talking in language that you understand, then you're going to miss out, you know. But if you understood, then you run back to the hood and, you know, tell everybody, hey, you know, we all got to collect this money because we get $100,000 next year, you know. And I said, the whole thing is I said, because when they went there to the restaurant, they're sharing information. I said, but what it is that a lot of people don't know the vocabulary, so they don't understand it. And you can't just say, well, you know, the white man is, well, I mean, I'm not going to go that far. I said, you can't just get mad at somebody because they got a nice car or anything. I said, because they did something to get it, and you just don't understand what they did to get it, you know. And it was like, oh, okay, now I understand. But it was a good conversation, you know, we're taking a lot of, well, you know, I was telling, you know, taking a lot of pictures of different things, memorables, or whatever it's called, memorables or something like that. You know, things for the memories. But it was really good. So I hope, and I told them, I said, what you do is you go home and you get study groups, and you guys start, you know, studying together. You know, it might take a while, because I told them about my survival thing too. I said, you know, when you started playing your game, you know, you could do it, and you kept going, eventually your body and your mind got used to doing it. And I said, when you study and stuff, it's going to be the same thing. Your mind and your body and everything's going to get used to doing that same pattern, and eventually, you know, when you start to understand it, then it's just going to, you're just going to blow up, you know, with all the knowledge and stuff. But other than that, it was good. You know, like I said, I almost felt like crying because it's been years since I just saw little kids running around, black kids running around and stuff, you know, and the way that guy was talking to the girls, I mean, you know, to the kids, not just one girl. She said, I'm going to eat all this, and she said something like grandparents would say, you know, and he said, oh, okay, Granny. And he was like, what do you mean, Granny? And he said something. She said, oh, that's something my grandmama said. And he was like, yeah, that's why I said Granny. You know, and it was funny because it reminded me of this conversation that was on EF, that was on us, Japanese teachers in Japan, and it was funny though. It was really funny. But I had a good time, and it was good to see him, and you know, and it was interesting because out here, you know, you don't really get to see a lot of. You know, I don't know how to say this, but it was cool to see a whole bunch of, you know, just really black-skinned people. It was really, really cool, you know. And I was thinking, like, when I was in Michigan, too, I was dark. I come out here, and I guess the sun, something was going on. I got really light. But I was like, man, I need to go back to Detroit, you know, and stuff. And they were like, where were you born? I was like, I was born in Ann Arbor, but, you know, I was born in Ann Arbor and immediately transported to Detroit. I don't know what that was all about, but that was interesting. But anyway, that was the story. That's my story, so.